thank you, Shulamit, for coming along today and for being with us. We are very grateful to have you join us.
It's my pleasure.
Excellent. And of course, it's always wonderful to see Sandra. We've come to the end of a very intense year. There's so many adjectives we could use. But today I'm in white because today, through the capital cities on the East Coast, the ladies dressed in white and met together in the CBD for a quiet gathering for the women's rights, especially for the rights of the Jewish women and the hostages. And we quietly protested together that they be released now. And we had a gathering of about 20 ladies came to the Brisbane CBD. Janine, I know they were in Melbourne and they were in Sydney. So I'm sure we had good gatherings. And we made an impact on the passers-by. And one Jewish gentleman came over and thanked us because he's on holidays from Israel. And it was really touching because we had the photographs of the hostages. So that's what I've done today. And so bring the hostages home now. It's been long enough.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen so much happen in the world this year, but since Friday, as Joy said, the Adass Synagogue firebombing happened on Friday, as did some gathering of church leaders and Jewish leaders walked again the walk in Melbourne that William Cooper walked. So concurrently, we have a good event with a terrifying event. Then at the same time, South Korea just went down into lockdown, and overnight Syria has changed, and we're not even 48 hours old. It's hard to get up. So I'd like to just take this opportunity to read a little bit of Psalm 19 as we close the year. We're a few weeks away from Hanukkah, which is the celebration of the defeat of the Maccabees. And in line with Leviticus 24, the command to keep the light burning, the menorah candle is lit for the 8 days. Yes, and Shari went through the synagogue and did a marvelous thing. Heartbreaking, really, because if you watch it, you can't help but think of October 7. So it's a very, very intense documentary. But the best light is of his word. And as I read this scripture, we'll pray it into 2025. So I'm choosing to read from verse 7 and I've got verse 8. So Lord, we just lift up our prayers as we read this scripture and we come into 2025. Lord, we just ask you. Verse 8, the law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is faithful, making the simple one wise. The orders of the Lord are upright, causing the heart to rejoice. The command of the Lord is clear, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is pure, existing forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, altogether just. They are to be desired more than gold, yea, more than fine gold, and are sweeter than honey and drippings of honeycombs. You also, your servant was careful with them, for in observing them there is great reward. Who understands errors? Cleanse me of hidden sins. Also withhold your servant from willful sins. Let them not rule over me. Then I will be perfect, and I will be cleansed of much transgression. May the sayings of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Lord, let us all go forth, expectant in 2025 that we will be filled with your light, your words, hope, and blessings, restoration, and love for each other. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Over to Sandra now.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to be here. And, when Pam and I were talking after the last meeting, and she thought it would be a great idea to invite somebody from one of the communities and give you all a chance to meet somebody. And so it was a great idea. And I asked Shulamit to join me. And then Shulamit spoke, and I spoke, it was like a few weeks ago. And we talked about, what are we going to talk about? And it was clear to both of us, there is no way that we can figure out a few weeks in advance what we're going to talk about, because in Israel, things change, at the drop of a hat. It's crazy. Yesterday, when we spoke and we set it up that we would only speak the day before this meeting, and yesterday when we spoke, it was hilarious because, of course, the whole world seems to have changed overnight, as you mentioned, Pam, with the fall of Assad in Syria. And, imagine had we had this whole detailed plan worked out a few weeks ago, all of it would have gone up in smoke. So, and actually the psalm that you read, Pam, I'm looking in my Bible and I'm going to the very next chapter in Psalms, chapter 20. And the very beginning verses are, how God will respond to us in our day of trouble. And we will, exalt God's name, the name of the God of Jacob. You will send your assistance from, I'm loosely translating it, from the holiness, and from Zion you will bring welfare. Okay. And what are we dealing with now? We have been for over a year in the worst war that Israel has fought. And, for the past more than a year, I've been bringing you up to date on the things that happen each month. And you know how well, and like you said, Pam, we still have over all these hostages, 100 hostages, some alive, some dead. We don't even know the details on all of them, but they need to come home before more of them lose their lives. And the fighting, and how many of us, you all know, my nephew fell in battle almost a year ago, January 1st. And there's been so much loss and so much pain and so much difficulty as our children and our grandchildren are serving in the IDF for months on end. And on the one hand, I think we all started to smile in September when all the beepers, all the pagers of the Hezbollah terrorists went off. And, that was really the beginning of a turn in the way we and so many people saw what was going on. Things seemed to be going right. And of course, eventually, we got rid of Nasrallah and we got rid of Sinwar. And so things really are looking up, but we're not over yet. And when I think of, Saturday night, we turned on the news and we already saw that the rebels in Syria were coming close and they were coming to Damascus. And it really looked as if, Assad's days or hours were numbered. And then, of course, we found out on Sunday that he was gone. We don't know if this is good or bad yet. Well, I think it's got to be good. Because what we're seeing is, of course, there's this axis of evil spanning from Iran up through Syria, across Lebanon, including, of course, Hezbollah. And of course, another Iranian proxy was Gaza, was Hamas. And so what we've seen over this past year is little by little, these proxies are toppling. And Assad was a lot more than a proxy, okay? And he's toppled. So we now have a much more weakened Iran. And of course, some of the attacks that Israel mounted against Iran in response to their attacks to us is definitely sent a very powerful message to Iran that, we see you, but you don't really see us. And, so this is good. On the other hand, we need to be very careful and very cautious, and Israel is exercising great care right now, because the rebels against Assad, as bad as Assad were, the rebels are not exactly Zionists. Okay, they're not our friends. There are a few that are. It's a very unusual coalition. The Kurds have great potential to have wonderful relationships with Israel. Israel is in touch with the leadership of the Kurds. That's a good group. And there's a very small group that is more Western oriented. And I think the Americans are in touch with them. And so these are very positive signs. But the people leading this rebellion right now are people who were with Al Qaeda and who were with some of the most extremist Islamist groups, terrorists, horrible, vicious people. And even some of them are now saying, we extend our hand in peace to Israel, but we have to be very cautious as to the extent that we trust that. And what Israel is now doing, taking advantage of this time where the rebels where Assad is gone, the Syrian army is in complete disarray, but no one has really taken over the central institutions or the army. And so Israel is now, first of all, it has gone into the Syrian side of the Hermon, of the Golan Heights, because that was divided based on an agreement about 50 years ago that ensured certain responsibilities on the part of the Syrian army. And since there is no Syrian army right now, so Israel's gone in there to ensure that our border is protected, but they're also destroying all kinds of equipment, weapons, the airport, all kinds of things that have or can serve whoever these people may want to use them to attack Israel. So it is an amazing opportunity right now. And we just have to hope that this opportunity is taken wisely. I'm very pleased to see the way the IDF is behaving, but we're at an amazing opportunity, but there's a lot of dangers ahead of us, and we have to be very, very cautious. And so that's just like a roundup, I would say, of where we are today in Israel. But I've had enough talking, and now we want to turn it over to Shulamit. And first of all, I just want to say something about how Shulamit and I first met. I started CFOIC in 1998. But before that, I was working for another organization. In a way, it died just about then, but it is from that organization that CFOIC grew in a sense. And that organization also represented the communities in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley, but we were reaching out to Jews. And it was through a chance encounter of a Christian family from the United States that walked into our offices and said to me, we need to be doing something like this for the Christians, that CFOIC was born. And Shulamit and I actually worked together going all the way back, probably to about 1994 or something like that. And she was the representative running the Jordan Valley outreach to people and communities abroad. And she was in charge of the Jordan Valley Fund. And I was initially the assistant director of that other organization, then became the founder and director of CFOIC. And so we go back 30 years.
Pretty much. Although I'd like to think it was, when you talk in terms of 30 years, it makes me feel old.
Nah, we're young, Shulamit. We're young.
You're still okay.
We're both retired, although I'm still involved with CFOIC, and Shulamit is extremely busy. So, Shulamit, tell us about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, before I start, I just want to let you know, to continue to what Sandra said about Syria, when I wake up at about 1:30 in the morning and I hear the planes overhead flying north, and you can always I know that something's going on. And then we hear them a few hours later coming back. And it's always very good to see that our Air Force is doing its job. Okay, so Kadesh could tell from my accent, I'm originally from the United States. My husband and I came to Israel 52 years ago. We've been living in the Jordan Valley for the last 43 years. We came here with a few young children and to a place that was totally deserted. There was nothing here. There were just hills. And there were no Arabs here either. The conditions here are very difficult. It's very, very hot. There's very little rainfall and there's no water. And after 1968, people began coming to the region. We came in 81 and developed the communities. and in developing the communities and growing here, and it's been a lot of work because we're mostly agricultural. So you've got a small group of people taking control of a large tract of land. The Arab population here has increased because now they have water, now they have jobs, they work with us. Oh, and an Arab who lives in the region, he doesn't have to pass any kind of a checkpoint, and he comes and works in our fields, in our date groves. Sometimes it's a bit of a problem because, well, I guess I could go on. I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, I have 4 children, 2 of them who live with us in the same community that we live in. It's a moshav, it's an agricultural community. We've got 150 families who belong here. And I even have a granddaughter who's building a house here, and a great granddaughter who's living here. So we really feel very blessed. No question. And as long as I have my health, and so does my husband, we're totally blessed. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, that's great, Shulamit. You know what? You mentioned the planes going back and forth.
Mhm.
So how has, when we woke up to the news, on Saturday night and Sunday, as we saw things develop in Syria, how did that affect you? And what are people in the Jordan Valley saying about what's going on in Syria?
Well, obviously, no one really knows how things are going to end, what's going to happen, and we're very concerned about how it's going to impact us because the border. Jordan is a border of peace. We have a peaceful solution with the Jordanian government, but there are now there are over 1 million Syrian refugees or refugees in Jordan, Arab, Palestinian refugees, and there are 600, according to I checked this up, according to the what do they call it? The United Nations Commission for Refugees. There are 660,000 Syrian refugees in Jordan. And we don't know what's going to happen, certainly after October 7, when we can see the communities there, we can see what's happening, and we're concerned because while it's always considered a border of peace, the complacency that was in effect in the south and in the north may blow up in our faces as well. And we're definitely very, very concerned. There are just when we came here when we look over to Jordan, there were very few lights that we would see on in the distance, and now it's amazing how many people are living there. We hope peacefully. We hope that they came there to do what we do here, to develop the land and the agriculture. I know that there are even, our area is known for its dates. We produce the most delicious dates. I hope you've had a chance to taste them, and if not, I recommend it. And I even know farmers here who have gone over to Jordan to help the Jordanian farmers develop their groves as well, and learn how to grow dates successfully. But on top of all that, we've been subject to what I would call agri-terror. It seems that because there are Arabs here and and they live in the communities right next to us, and if they work in the fields, there's quite a bit of thievery, equipment, produce, tractors, a forklift, warehouses, and even more disturbing is water. Because of the development of the communities here, there's water was brought to the area, and our neighboring village just connected to the water pipes and stole water for their fields. So the army works at that and trying to discover the theft of water, and it's something that we're very concerned about. Of course,
was there something in your community, Shulamit, maybe a year ago, where someone burnt down a farm or a packing plant or something like that near you?
It's in the community right next to us, where we have like two very close-knit communities. And there was we don't understand why they did it. They said that's it was a disgruntled employee, an Arab who wanted to get back and burnt down the whole packing plant of this family, and they had to rebuild everything. We're the subject of of problems. I mean, my friend, just 2 nights ago, one of my friends came back from a wedding in Jerusalem and said that rocks were thrown at them and their window was smashed. And it's definitely a concern that we have here. We don't know what to expect. The army has told us that they're bringing in a third division into the Jordan Valley along the border. We have 2 divisions right now who are protecting us. They're going to bring a third one in. We don't know how long it'll take. They also talk about putting in more electronic control and security devices along the border, but we're talking about billions of dollars and probably quite a long time before it's all set up. So we are concerned. There isn't the same kind of free feeling that we had years ago. Certainly
Let
not.
me just kind of bring some of the people up to date on what's how the Jordan Valley. First of all, Shulamit mentioned a level of complacency, which I'm sure you're aware of, that one of the reasons the attack on October 7th was such a surprise was because the highest echelons, both of the government and of the army, believed that Hamas would never dare to launch such a massive, horrible attack. But that level of complacency really penetrated all over Israel. So along Israel's eastern border with Jordan Valley, there was much less guarding and watching than there should have been. And what was discovered in this past year was that really there was an enormous quantity of arms that have been smuggled across the border with Jordan for the last few years. And these arms are finding its way into the terrorist cells in Judea and Samaria and are being used against us. And of course, when that sense of complacency was destroyed for everyone on October 7th, and that is why also even before this issue with Syria, we have much more increased military presence along the Jordan Valley, because they realize that this has to be stopped. And if I understand correctly, Shulamit, the IDF has done a great deal to slow down, if not even stop, this kind of arms smuggling across the Jordan.
Definitely. Every few weeks, we usually get a notification about how the local army units were able to confiscate an amazing amount of guns and mortars and that were being infiltrated into the communities. We know that every community, even in the Jordan Valley, where the people who live in the community, in the Arab villages around here, generally came after the Jewish settlers. They weren't here beforehand. But we know that in every community there is a Hamas stronghold now. And while we always considered them our neighbors, or they worked in our community, we won't allow any Arabs in anymore from the region. We're not taking any chances. Well, I mean, I had one of my Arab workers on a speed dial. He did all the work in our house that we ever needed, and he was, someone who we'd sit around and talk to over a cup of coffee. I wouldn't consider that again. We had a gardener who was in the community who was Arab, and an elderly gentleman who would come around and work very, very conscientiously, but we're not taking any chances. And there is definitely a sense of concern about how things will continue.
Absolutely. And I also want to just kind of connect that for all of you, what Shulamit mentioned, 660,000 refugees from Syria in Jordan. And I talked about the rebels. These are all people who, the reason they're refugees is because they were aligned with one or another of the rebel groups, okay? But who are those rebel groups? As I mentioned, a whole variety of types. So within those 660,000, you can have people who are aligned with Al-Qaeda and with people like that. And so this, of course, is the concern. Some of those refugees are wonderful people that are just were fleeing Assad because they wanted freedom or they were suffering persecution. But some of them are really, really bad people. And this is a challenge I think we all have. And I think Jordan has that challenge as well. And I'm not sure that Jordan is so eager to have terrorism sprouting up across its border. But we have different standards from Jordan in any case, so we have to rely on our own military and our own security. So anyway, Shulamit, what has this last year been like for you personally?
Well, on October 8th, I found that there were 9 members of my family who were drafted. including, I mean, starting from my husband, who is 75.
How old is Arnie?
75, and he did 165 days of reserve duty in the region, in the area, but he wasn't available. Down
Like,
to
hear that, everybody? 75 years old and still doing military duty. Of course, you have to volunteer at that age to do it.
Volunteers.
But Arnie is amazing.
Yeah, so since he set this example, so my son, who's 50, is still serving. He's in active service right now in the north, in Lebanon. And I have two grandsons, one in the regular army, one in a tank. The other one is a tank commander. One is in the north, one is in the south in Jabalia. I haven't seen my grandchildren, my grandson. I saw him once in the last year and a half, practically. And then I have both of my grandsons-in-law are now in the army. Now, right now we have 5 people from the family in active duty, and it's something of concern. But I generally leave that to my husband because I'm in denial. I don't want to know. I don't want to know where they are. I mean, I don't want to know when they're in Lebanon or when they're in Gaza and where they're fighting. And that's his department. He keeps in touch with everybody. And occasionally he'll just let me know because I do have to know something. It's definitely an issue of concern. Every day we hear about soldiers who are fighting bravely. And as Sandra said, her nephew, it's hard. It's very hard.
Seven soldiers lost their lives yesterday.
4 of them were from my son, my 50-year-old son's unit. And my husband, that he spent all day going from house to house, talking to the families. And he was one who was really close with. I mean, I haven't spoken to him yet, but he had a very rough day. And that was after he told us that he was on vacation and he was off for the weekend till Wednesday. And then when I heard that Monday he was back in the army, I was surprised, and they called him back because they needed him to go to speak to the families.
Yeah. Terrible.
I don't know. I don't understand how our young people or our fighters are going to how they're going to get over what they're going through. I don't understand it. The emotional impact, the bravery that they've shown is beyond understanding.
No, it's true. We all wonder that. And the Army is doing a lot. Every time a unit rotates out of active duty, they spend a day to kind of debrief, not just militarily, but emotionally as well. And the Army is really investing in these soldiers to help them ease back in. But it's like a seesaw. They ease back into civilian life. They're there for a few months and they go back in, to reserves. And this is, unfortunately, has been the reality. And, especially now with the fall of Syria and the instability that we anticipate there, even as we reduce our level of forces in Gaza and in Lebanon, we're still going to have a very high level of active duty because of these expansion of these fronts. So Shulamit, tell us a little bit more about your community, Shadmot Mechola. How did it start? What was it like when you got there, and what is life like there today?
Well, I came 3 years before we actually moved into the community. We knew that the community was being built, so we were already in the Jordan Valley waiting. This year, we are celebrating our 40th year since the community was established. We're the largest community in the Jordan Valley, which sounds a little strange because 150 families don't really sound like very much. But because we're rural communities, agricultural communities, it's quite a lot. There are communities that are even much smaller. But we're expanding. We're growing, as I mentioned. I have a granddaughter who's even building. We're building 40 new homes now. And just yesterday, we met with a company that's interested in building the next group of 130 homes.
Oh, wow.
We know that there is an interest in many people all over the country in coming here, besides children who who grew up here, who want to continue in living here. Our motto is a community that's like a family. And that's the feeling that we have here. I think one of the nicest thing is that I'm as one of the old timers, have no problem sitting with the young couples and meeting with them and connecting with them. It's a wonderful feeling. We're really very proud of our community. It's a community who does a lot of good deeds. I have to say, it's a very important part. There's a program ongoing now to support. We sort of adopted a group of families who were from the north, who are out of their homes and living in one of the kibbutzim in the area. And we've sort of adopted them and go visit with them and support them. We have plans on Hanukkah to have a party with them. And, we do what we can to try to help. I guess my big project now is a youth center, a youth educational center that we're and the last stages of building. I have to admit, as a grandmother, I was walking one evening, walking down, and I see my granddaughter, my 13-year-old granddaughter, sitting on the curb in the street with her friends. And I said, "What are you doing here?" She says, "Well, we have a activity." So I says, "What are you doing here on the street?" She said, "Yeah, it's fine, no problem. We like sitting around on the street." Well, I felt terrible. I felt like we're not giving our youth the kinds of support that they need in order to even get together and meet with each other. And they're going through a hard time. And the same granddaughter, her brother is in the army. She sleeps in his shirt. She sleeps in his bed. But they fight all the time. They never stop fighting. And as soon as he comes home, there's like, they're at it with each other, but she's obviously missing him terribly because, we can see it. And so we really need this center in order to provide our young people with a place to meet, a place to get together. Very important for us. So that's a big project I'm working on now. I volunteer, so that's one of my volunteering projects.
Well, it is a project that was submitted to CFOIC, and I don't know if the project is up on the website yet or not, but I can send you all a copy of that project if any of you are interested in donating to it, because the funding for the building has already, they have it in the community, but we've been asked to step in and provide the furnishings, the equipment, to turn the place from an empty shell of a building to a warm and welcoming place that the kids, now it's interesting when you tell that story about your granddaughter sitting on the curb, and we all, I remember my kids were growing up, and there was a period of time here where we didn't have a youth center, and I would ask my kids, so my oldest, when he would go out, where are you going? To the tree. The tree? Yes, because his group of friends had their meeting place under a particular tree. Okay. And that, I remember at that point, really pushed me along to see what we could do to get a building here so that have a problem. We could actually meet inside a room as opposed to under a tree. And so I really relate to what you're going through there, Shulamit. But so what we're trying to do is just, help turn that room into a home away from home, which is really what these kids need. And like you say, Shulamit, especially over this past year, there's been so much going on, and the kids, are often themselves involved in volunteering, or like you say, that your granddaughter is missing her brother who is, fighting, and I'm sure she's worried about him as well. At some level, although, kids don't like to express it. And, it's been challenging for all of us. So, what else have you been doing as a volunteer, Shul? I know you're so busy.
Well, actually, I always say Sunday's my free day. That's my day when I don't have any commitments. And every other day I have something. Like today, I volunteer in a school nearby, a boys' school, a middle school and high school, and I help the advanced students with their English. Then one day I work, that's one day, and then one day I work in the archives, collecting information about our community and organizing it. One day a week I learn. I study issues of the land of Israel. and once a month we travel to somewhere in Israel to feel with the Bible, to be at the places that where we learn about and we read about.
You know, there is something called Land of Israel Studies in Israel, which is very, very popular. And, you know, whether you study it in a university or in high school, or you just like Shulamit as a volunteer, you know, just for fun, going to study something like that. But when we do a Land of Israel Studies, it starts in the Bible and goes up to the modern day. So it's Bible, it's history, it's geography, it's archaeology, it's
Right.
politics. It's everything. So you must love that, Shulamit.
Oh, it's wonderful. My husband started 6 years ago. I joined up 4 years ago as soon as I retired, and we started out. There were only about 25 members. It's geared towards the seniors, and it's called Going Back to School. That's what the program is called. And now we have no room in the room. There are over 55 people who come. And these are from
Wow.
all the communities of the Jordan Valley, regardless of any kind of political or religious background, or it's amazing. And we all get together, and it's a wonderful experience. I don't always remember. They teach me things. There are no tests, so I don't write. I don't take notes. And I was complaining that, to one of my friends, I said, I feel bad because tomorrow, if you ask me what we were talking about today, I'm not sure if I could repeat everything. And I was so excited about the lesson. She said, well, you sat here for 3 hours. You enjoyed yourself. That's the most important thing. So, yeah, but I have learned a lot about Islam. I learned a lot about the growth of Israel, what it took, a lot of archaeology. I love archaeology. And so we visited many, many sites. It's amazing to see. Just the last tour we had were looking at caves that were used by in Judea, about rebels who were hiding from the Romans, and the caves that they hid in. Fascinating. So yes, I enjoyed that very much. Thursday I have to clean up and prepare for the weekend, cook for whoever's coming for the weekend. So you see, I'm very busy, but I love it. I like doing projects. And I have some other projects I do by the way, but that's just sort of spread over the week.
Well, that sounds great, Shulamit. I just, I want to, we're going to leave plenty of time now for Q&A, both on, anything that's going on in Israel, and of course, to ask Shulamit specific questions, and she'd love to welcome that. But a couple of things I just want to mention, and we'll remind you again at the end. Well, so first of all, I will send out an email with some of these reminders. If any of you are interested in supporting the completion of the youth center in Shadmot, which is where Shulamit lives, that would be wonderful. More important, we have a solidarity mission going March 2nd of next year. That's only in 3 months, and a little less than 3 months, but there's still time to sign up. And I will assure you that as part of that mission, we will be visiting in the Jordan Valley. And Shulamit, if you're available with all your different volunteering, definitely we'll be able to meet Shulamit in person and see for yourself. Exactly. I must tell you, I don't think there was a group that I brought to the Jordan Valley that we didn't have an opportunity to taste the dates. These are medjool dates. They are plump, juicy, like it's like eating candy. It's amazing. So I think I can. What?
And the sugar of the dates is much healthier. There are a lot of vitamins and minerals in the dates, and if you wanted a snack, it's the best thing to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So think about that. If any of you, definitely the foreign airlines are all considering coming back now, but El Al has been flying throughout. So, you can come. We're not seeing missiles and all that like we were before. And we're fairly confident that will continue. We have problems on our borders, but today we're in a situation and we're looking really forward to welcoming tourists back again. So consider that, but I must say it's not a normal tour. This is a solidarity mission. This is an opportunity to come and bring support and love to the people of Israel. who have had a very, very difficult year and a half, and also to learn for yourselves what really, from a firsthand knowledge, what is going on. It's not a strenuous kind of tour. We welcome everybody who can come, and hope that at least some of you will consider that. And I will send you a link to information about that as well. So, questions, anybody?
Yes, I've got a quick, easy question. If we want to buy some dates off you, will you send them to Australia? How do we buy some dates off you in Australia?
Oh, when I was working, I would be able to know who our dates were in which countries. I don't have the same connection that I did then, but if you go to your supermarkets, you can ask, I want dates from Israel, and see if they're importing them into the country.
One thing I will tell you, a story that I experienced, and I'm sure that is still the case in most countries, because of boycotts against produce produced in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. So I had a friend in the United States who wanted to buy Jordan Valley dates. And I asked Shulamit at the time, and she connected me with their distributor in the United States. And this woman called them up, and she says, I want to buy dates from the Jordan Valley. And she says, we don't have dates from the Jordan Valley. And so my friend said, yes, but I got your number. I know for a fact that you are the distributor of dates that are grown in the Jordan Valley, because I spoke to the growers. And they said, well, hold on a second. And then he came back and he says, I'm going to tell you something, but you have to keep it totally confidential. Our dates are from the Jordan Valley, but it says made in Israel. Because they're afraid. So if you go and ask, where are the dates from the Jordan Valley, they will tell you we don't have such a thing. So you have to ask dates made in Israel. And the truth of the matter is the vast majority of the dates grown in Israel are grown in the Jordan Valley. Certainly the medjool ones, and that's what you want, medjool, M-E-D-J-O-U-L. So if you get medjool dates from Israel, you have a 99% chance that they've grown in the Jordan Valley. So that's good. And of course, we have to work on this BDS stuff, but that'll be our next thing.
Mark, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, look, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Good, okay. I wanted to ask about the ceasefire with Hezbollah and what the reaction in Israel is to that. Are people welcoming the ceasefire? Are they looking at it as a situation of the army needed the rest, the Israeli army needed the rest, or are they seeing it as something that they have reservations about? Are they seeing it as something that America has put pressure on them to adopt? What's the perception, and what's your analysis of that?
I don't think anybody in Israel believes that the ceasefire is going to hold. And I can tell you right now, it's already not holding. The Israeli army is in Lebanon, and first of all, the ceasefire allows the IDF to continue to be in Lebanon for 60 days after signing the ceasefire, and in the 60 days takes us into the Trump presidency. Okay, I can tell you that the IDF is still working quite actively in southern Lebanon. To get rid of terrorists, to get rid of munitions, and things of that nature. We have seen from day one breaches of the ceasefire by Hezbollah, and these are responded to very, very efficiently and quickly and decisively by the IDF. What the ceasefire is doing and what it has done is brought to virtually zero or almost zero the bombs and missiles that were being shot across to Israel. And that has allowed most of the North, not right at the top of the border, but most of the North to go back to normal life, which is very valuable. And it is giving us the opportunity to rearm. And America was boycotting Israel, not allowing a certain amount of arms to go across to Israel. And so that has been released. And as I said, all of this will be reevaluated once Trump becomes president. So the way we look at it is a stopgap measure to which we are taking advantage of to do what we need to do to be fully prepared when things spiral. And the question is how they will spiral. And everything looks different today with Assad out of the way and Israel virtually taking control of the supply routes that were that were fueling Hezbollah going from Iran through Syria and into Lebanon. So everything is changing on a daily basis. I don't worry about the ceasefire.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. And what would you like to say?
Oh, I'm really excited. We can get Medjool dates in our supermarkets in Brisbane. They're freely available and they're the best dates. Oh, they're awesome.
But are they from Israel? Are they from Israel?
I think so. Now, I've never really, it's years since I bought any because they are a little on the expensive side, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Israel. Yes.
Good.
Yep. So I'll check. But yeah, if so, they are. So it's good to know they're coming from you. Okay. Now, just a question. It's really exciting to see Israel taking the initiative in Syria and bombing all the Russian things, the Sukhoi helicopters and MiG jets and all the bombing and all that sort of stuff. So they're getting rid of all the really bad things. And that the baddies, ISIS or Al-Qaeda, whoever they are, can't use them against you guys. So they're just like bombing. And it's awesome to see that. They're just like really risen to the occasion. They recognised opportunity and they're just clearly God's hands on it. How on earth they could ever just grab such an opportunity is so exciting to see. Now, the Golani Heights, they seem to be pushing back into Syria to clear an area that's a buffer zone, a safe zone for you guys. And so what will that mean for you? So they seem to be pushing in kilometres and taking that ground to make a buffer against heavy weapons, artillery or anything building up in there. So is that anything, how does that affect you, or what are your thoughts on that?
Our thoughts are great. Israel has to go into, as I mentioned, these were areas that were, Israel had gone into this part of the Golan already in the Yom Kippur War and retreated from them under an agreement with Syria that the Syrian army was responsible for ensuring, it was like a buffer zone, that the Syrian army was responsible for ensuring that no arms came into that area. And indeed, we've had problems. See, this is also very interesting. Syria, like Iran, likes proxies. So Syria was very careful not to attack Israel from its territory, but would funnel all the weapons to Hezbollah, supporting them as they attacked us from Lebanon. But that area of the Golan, we were not attacked from the Syrian side of the Golan in a very long time. But now everything can change, and we don't know who will take control of that part. So it's also legitimate under this agreement, because the abandonment of these posts by the Syrian army is essentially a breach by the Syrians of that original disengagement agreement going back 50 years. So, here we are, taking our place. And so, yes, it's wonderful. It's legitimate. And hopefully it will help protect us in our northern border.
I'd like to add, on one of our trips to the Golan Heights, we stood in the outlook of a building that was once part of a command post. And Quneitra, just over the border, there was fighting. And you could even hear the noise. And they said, it's so strange. They're fighting with each other. Thank God they're not fighting in Israel. But here we are, and 2 kilometers away from here, there's fighting going on. And we can't allow that to continue, because it may flow over to Israel. So having a buffer zone is extremely important.
Excellent. Joy?
Shulamite, I might be speaking for myself here, but your Land of Israel walks really appeal to me. And I just wonder if it's worthwhile asking your guide if there might be a market to do mini walks, like if he went to the Golan Heights and was, panning around. A Zoom. I have been on a Zoom walk with Daniel Luria, Sandra. Daniel in Jerusalem.
Yeah, sure.
He did a walk through Jerusalem by Zoom. Now, I reckon there'd be a few of us here in Australia that would love to get on a Zoom of some of these sites.
First of all, let me remind you that Shulamit's teacher is speaking Hebrew.
I was just going to say that. It's a wonderful idea, but it's all in Hebrew.
But you know
Can they
what we
do
did in the
that?
past, and I can talk to Shmuel about doing some more of that. Of course, our ability to travel in Israel in the past year has been very limited. We haven't been able to go to the south. We haven't been able to go to the north. So we're stuck like in the middle there somewhere, you know. But
Yeah,
hopefully that will
yeah,
start expanding again.
yeah.
Danny Ehrlich, who is our favorite tour guide, wonderful English speaker. We did in the past virtual tours, and they are on our website, virtual tours in Judea and Samaria. And in
Yes.
fact, he will be the tour guide to our tour in March. It might be a really good idea. I don't know how well Zoom works, because Zoom, you know, it depends on the time. And are you good for Australia time? Are you good for America time? But it might be a good idea to do filming of that tour in March, and then put them in segments and put them out to our audience. What would you think of that, Joy?
Yes, and I'm thinking of something like Kiryat Shimona too.
Oh, for sure.
To actually go, you know, it would enable us to really see the extent of the damage, and you know, you could make a thing out of it, couldn't you?
You know, and I'm going to discuss that with Shmuel, because that really doesn't need a tour guide. That just needs an eyewitness. And maybe he or I mean, I've not gone up there since before October 7th. No one was allowed up there except military personnel until yesterday or 2 days ago. So it's something to look, but that's a very good idea. Very good.
Yeah.
I'd like
Do you
to
think it is, people? Yeah. Would you be willing to do it? I love the tour with Daniel. He had me in the rear. Now you, Joy Halen, you know, you take up the rear, and I mean, it's all by Zoom. It was so funny.
So we'll look into that. We will look into that. Absolutely. Thank you, Joy.
I don't know what Sandra has planned for the itinerary in March, but in one of the trips that we did, we went down south and we visited Sderot.
Yes, that's definitely on the
and we were at the monument at the Nova
yes.
Festival, and I mean, ever since then, I haven't taken this off. Seeing with my own eyes, I used to live in that area before I came to the Jordan Valley when I first came to Israel, and it was very familiar. And I just, it's heartbreaking, but it's so important to understand, because there are denials. There are actually people who say, no, there was nothing on October 7th. It's all a fabrication of the Israelis, which is, I mean, I don't know how we can even say that. So that's a very important place.
Yeah, we definitely. We did a tour like this last March, and the things were still going on much more than they are today. We took the group down south, and I joined the group for that day, and it was extremely moving. We saw the Nova Memorial, the Nova Festival area there. We went to 2 different communities in the Gaza envelope and met with survivors of the massacre. And it was just such a meaningful thing. And we definitely are going to be going back to that area in March. That'll be a full day, 100%.
Actually, some of us would say, Shmuel, that Israel needs to be more public about the atrocities and what really happened. And I did hear a group of university students in America that were told more detail of everything, and they changed their mind when they were, could see that it was for real.
Well, the atrocities in full gory, shall we say, was shown at the UN. It was shown to the press all over the world. Okay, so the question is, what have they chosen to report? You know, it has been shown extensively, but they don't want to put it on. It's certainly not putting it on Israel television, because it's too horrible. It's too disturbing for us. But the reporters all over the world are free to use this, and if they're not, then you know they're not. It's a problem. It's a real problem.
Well, anyway. I'd like to just say, if you aren't already subscribed onto Shmuel on the Telegram channel, he's putting beautiful little videos up, and I really recommend to come onto that Telegram. He's put up this magnificent video of one of the ladies who was given a bouquet of sunflowers, and now those sunflowers have been made into a clear display. And just to watch those little videos, and he's out and about all throughout Samaria. So there's one absolute immediate place that you can see these tiny videos coming up. And I just wanted to put that in there, plug Shmuel. And of course, we have to also say, please look for his tour. It's all there. It's all ready. Jenny, what would you like to say?
Thank you. So just quickly, two things. Well, I don't know if you're aware of, not to put anything against your tour, but a group called the Israel Guys, they put out lots of videos about Judea and Samaria, and they've got a website and they do a lot of promotion. So just to have a look at something online while you guys are getting your tours organised. So they're called the Israel Guys. But my question for Sandra is, we hear Benjamin Netanyahu speaking, and we think he's amazing and wonderful. But we also know in Israel there's a lot of factions that are speaking against him. How's he going at the moment politically? I mean, is he strong? I mean, is he going to survive this? I mean, we think he's the man for the hour, but maybe you guys don't.
So Netanyahu was probably the most brilliant prime minister Israel has ever had. And certainly not just today during the war, but before, he has really done so much to take Israel from a place of being very isolated and very powerless to a place where it can take its position among the nations, even with all the anti-Israel propaganda that's out there. He has really reached beyond that, certainly before October 7th, if we think about the Abraham Accords and some of these other very interesting relationships that he has forged around the world. Of course, he's an amazing orator, presents Israel's case very, very effectively. Now, in the last few years, there's growing opposition to him domestically. And part of that is because he's been in power for so long. In some countries, there's a limit to how many terms the prime minister can serve. And in Israel, there is no limit, although that is something that is being discussed. And so naturally, what happens is after a time, whether it's the prime minister himself that starts getting a bit sloppy, or the people that get tired of him, or that people who were always against him are able to put their case forward and have better listeners. So that it's definitely a problematic situation. And I think October 7th was really quite a watershed event in that we all agree that there was something terribly wrong before October 7th that allowed October 7th to happen. And the question is, who is to blame? And everybody's always looking for someone to blame. Is it Bibi? Is it the government? Is it the army? Is it the chief of staff of the army? Is it the whole higher echelon of the army? And the truth of it is probably they're all to blame, one level or another. Okay, we remember Bibi himself announcing before October 7th that Hamas is completely deterred and we don't have to worry about them attacking. He said that. The chief of staff of the army said everybody was saying this sort of stuff. So this has to be investigated, and we are now in the middle of a war, so they're not investigating it right now in a full way, although the IDF has done some of its own investigation. I think Netanyahu still has support. I don't think he has as much support as he used to, but a lot depends on what the alternatives is. And there's two things involved, okay? We have a multi-party system, so people vote for different parties, and different parties are more to the right, and different parties are more to the left. And some of the parties that are to the right are actually in coalition with parties that are to the left because more than they are right, they hate Netanyahu. And so this is really, tossed everything up and mixed things up already for some time. So we really have no idea what it's going to look like at an election. What I can tell you definitively is that the country is overwhelmingly right-wing in its ideological and political bent. Okay? Overwhelmingly. So that even if Netanyahu is not the next prime minister, I am fairly certain that whoever is the next prime minister will also be right-wing. And we'll see what happens, but That I feel very, I think I can confidently say that. How do you see that, Shulamit?
I wanted to put in my 2 cents. I think that since there always has been opposition in every democratic state, there's opposition, and people are allowed to say that they oppose. And sometimes the media may blow out of proportion this opposition, because we always say the news, a dog bites a person, it doesn't make the news. A person bites the dog, it makes the news. So they're looking for something sensational to put into the news. So that would happen. Now, ever since though October 7th, I think certainly you blame the person at the top. The buck stops here. That's the person who we're most disappointed with not having provided us with the security and the defense that we felt that was needed. So there may be right now a feeling that all the parties there has to be a change. Who will be in that change? Who will take over? Oh, I have no idea. But I think that many people, even if they support Netanyahu, will say that there has to be a change.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, Shulamit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, well, thank you.
Yes.
It's very
Thank you, Jenny.
interesting that they are demanding releases of the hostages. I don't know how he can do it.
You're asking how can he release the
I
hostages?
don't know why they are expecting him. I don't know why they're expecting him to be able to release the hostages.
No, that's part of right.
Release the
Look,
hostages. Like, how can he do it? He.
Okay, so I think that the debates surrounding the whole hostage thing, and I think what Shulamit said here, I would just expand on that a little bit. Tempers are hot, and emotions and passions are flaring because of the terrible, terrible tragedies that we've experienced from October 7th until today. So there's a tremendous amount of anger, and you need to blame somebody. Unfortunately, the media is putting forward the most extreme positions. So you have some of the hostage families saying it's all the government's fault, or it's all Netanyahu's fault, because it's very simple. All he needs to do is say, end the war, and we get our hostages back. Okay. But really, what lays behind this is a very complicated issue. Okay. Do you end the war? And I would say a lot of people are saying, sure, agree to end the war, get your hostages back. You get them back the next day, go back in. Everybody would agree with that. Everybody, as long as we have the additional freedom of movement, that the day after we get all our hostages back, we go back into Gaza and finish the job. The problem is the entire time that the Biden administration was in power, the Hamas was demanding guarantees from the Americans that we won't go in. Now, all of that may change once Trump comes into power. Okay, so that's just one example, when really the issue is when you're weighing on the scale the lives of these hostages on the one hand, which everybody wants them home safe, but on the other hand, you want to make sure that Hamas does not remain in power with its weapons, so that the day after the hostages come back, they can attack and do another October 7th. Can't allow that to happen either. So while this is a complicated issue that should have serious conversation with respect for all sides, unfortunately, the media is very often presenting the most extreme sides of the issue, as opposed to the rational people in the middle who are discussing this as a real issue. I don't think Netanyahu should be blamed. The person who should be blamed, or the people that should be blamed, is Hamas. You don't blame Netanyahu. On the other hand, there's a recognition that the government maybe has not expressed enough empathy with the hostages' families. And again, it's a no-win solution. No matter where you are, you're going to be able to be angry at somebody. And what we just would like to see is a little bit more polite discourse, shall we say.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Jenny. And we're coming past time, so if you can be quick, you could be our final one, please.
Make it really fast. Okay, Pam, I totally concur with what you said about Shmuel. Shmuel, especially on Telegram, is awesome. He brings you Israeli life. I wrote a little snippet on it to say, Shmuel, you explain what it's like to be a Jewish person living in Israel. So we in the West wouldn't have a clue. We don't live like that. And you live so much as like a community. Just like as you said, Shalom, you've said about this, that you live as a family, you live as community. So Shmuel is teaching us and educating us on Telegram. I love it. And he's also on your CFOIC website, but he does teach us. He shows us when that girl, that wife, and she's with the husband, and he sent roses and the flowers and chocolates, whatever, and then he died the next day. This guy spends like, I don't know, days getting those flowers and engraving it and putting it in epoxy resin, and the love and the detail. This is what Israel excels in, is love. It takes effort, and you guys do effort. Look at your kibbutzes, look at your communities. It's effort. It's love in its greatest, deepest, strongest, evident way to live. And that the West is so, it's so void of this love. It's losing it because it's so me. The children don't teach, they're not taught respect. So I just want to say, you guys keep teaching us, keep educating us on Israel. We need to understand you. We love you more. We're like, oh God, we all just want to shift to Israel. Lord God, just transport us all there. But we love it, and we love what you do. Shmuel does it well. And video snips. Those video snips Shmuel's doing are in English. It takes us all around to get in Samaria. And just one quick thing then, the question I said was going to ask about deep state. Deep state, Sandra, in Israel. We hear a lot about the deep state in Israel. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't go there. I mean,
it's
I
hard.
just, there's always something going on. But I think as a whole, people are honest and forthcoming, and we have differences of opinion, but I'm really not worried about a deep state. As for Shmuel, I will send you a link to the CFOIC Telegram channel in my follow-up email, and then you'll have it, and you can join that and be up to date with these films. I know he's doing a fabulous job.
He is, yes.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank Shulamit on behalf of everybody. I hope you've enjoyed meeting us as much as we've enjoyed meeting you. And we're very pleased that you came and spent the time with us. And we wish you all the very best down at Jordan border with the agriculture and with whatever those people may or may not do. We ask and pray Hashem will be with you and that community always and forever in his power. So we pray that blessing over you. And it's wonderful that you've come along. And of course, we would always like to thank Sandra for all that you've done. And it's Hanukkah, the day, I think it is Christmas Day, or the day after Boxing Day is Hanukkah. And I'd like to encourage everyone to find a Hanukkah celebration near you and go and say hello to our Jewish community and say that we're with you no matter what, especially as things are very hot for our Jewish communities in Australia. So please, we can go and say hello. And our next meeting, mark in the calendar, will be the Tuesday, the 14th of January. So after you've eaten too many celebration dinners and you need to remember to come back on the 14th. And yes, and so we're coming into 2025. If you have any ideas that you would like to suggest to Sandra as to how we can make our Zoom meetings engaging, please give us some suggestions. We're open to that. And at the end of everything, please register for Shmuel's tour, and please invite strangers to come and hear him, because we really need to bring the community of Christians on board. We're kind of almost like a sleeping giant that if we could rally together, we could be very powerful. But a lot of us are asleep. So just go and wake up some people that you know. And okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Shulamit. Thank you, Pam.
Pleasure.
Thank you all.
So
Yes.
heartwarming to hear from you all.
Bye.
Make my day.